One problem issue of being a crossdresser?
Number one problem issue. Well, I suppose kind of something I was just kind of alluding to, that the cross-dressing sometimes can be isolating because it's usually done in private or done like when I go away. So that by definition takes me away from the family and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that can kind of seems like it's counterproductive and selfish, I guess. So from a spiritual point, that's my answer. From like a physiological point, my number one challenge, I think, is trying to maintain the image, because it's a lot of shaving and a lot of staying in shape and grooming, and it's just a never ending.
Eventually, you from marathons?
Yeah. I ran Boston. I mean, this is going to sound like bragging now, but
go ahead. That's what this is for.
Shoot. But yeah, I ran Boston. I was pretty good for a while, but as you get older, you get slower, and then it just becomes a reminder of how much older you're getting by how much slower you're getting. But
the fact that you even finish one, regardless of where you finished, is just amazing.
I guess so. Thank you. Is really supportive right now. It's been a long road, like I said, 28 years. It's had its ups and downs, and when she went through all of the trying to understand it, but she sees how much I enjoy it, and all of those original fears that every wife has when they first find out about their husband cross-dressing, none of them developed into reality. So she's become really comfortable with it. And honestly, you mentioned that I'm going to TGR next week, or tomorrow actually. And I said, "Oh, it's too bad you're not coming." She's like, "I kind of wish I could. I really miss hanging out with some of your girlfriends." And so,
tell me about some of the tell me about some of the ups and downs or the challenges, because like you insinuated, it wasn't perfect. It's probably been a lot of work. What are some of those challenges that you guys went through?
Well, I mean, they're the same things that everybody goes through. At first, she was like, "Well, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought my life was going to be."
Did she catch you dressing, or did you tell her?
Well, okay. So originally, I told her before we were married, and I figured if we're going to get married, this is something about her, something about me that she needs to know. And so I couldn't bear to just tell her, so I wrote her a letter. And I came home from work, and I gave it to her, and I went into the bedroom. And she came in 5 minutes later. And what I said in the letter was that I used to dress because, like many of us, I was convinced that I could stop.
Yep.
And so I said, I used to like to dress in women's clothing. I just wanted you to know that this is something that I used to do. And she was just so relieved that I wasn't breaking up with her that she, gave me a big hug and said it was no problem.
And
yeah.
I'm sure that meant way more to you than just the makeup and the, you know what I mean? It was the message.
Absolutely.
What did that feel like?
And she's done that over and over many times, where she's done a lot of things where she didn't have to do it, but, it really meant a lot to me. And, I think, in her words, I treat her that well, so she's treating me the way that I treat her, and
funny how that works.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, when you love someone, you want them to be happy. They were definitely in favor of protecting the family, and made the cross-dressing seem like not a big deal.
But my family, except for my kids, and my friends from a long time ago, male and female, I all came out to them in pictures only. They have not seen Maddie in person. I haven't gone there with them. What was that like to the difference between the people you came out to in just a picture and then when they saw you in person? Was there a much different reaction? Was it kind of a phased reaction because the pictures first and then in real person later?
Well, I guess the only time that's happened was with my kids, and it's been really brief. Like I just was like, "Bye, I'm going to go play with friends," just walking out the door. So
Okay.
that, but it is when my wife. Originally, it was really awkward because voice and mannerisms and the things that you talk about are different as Heidi and as my male self.
Right.
And when you're interacting with someone who knows you in one way, changing that much is really awkward to know how much you want to retain your old personality and how much you want to present
Mm-hmm.
this new one. So yeah, that's a little tricky. Remember trying on things that were left in the bathroom, swimming suits, and we had our laundry basket there. So locking myself in the bathroom and trying on whatever I could find in the laundry. I remember my mom painting my nails when I was little because she was painting my sister's nails, so I wanted my nails painted too. Until I remember one time being teased about that, like going over a friend's house and being teased about it, and then I learning that that was not acceptable and then never doing it again. Yeah, very tempting. And again, my family was really into sports, so they were always leaving the house for games and stuff. And whenever I got a chance, I would stay home. But this particular time that you're talking about, so because they would leave home and go to these games, and I would dress at home. I kind of had like this clock in my head where I knew, okay, they're coming home. It's almost been an hour or whatever. So I thought I had like this sixth sense that I could I could stay dressed as long as I wanted, but as soon as the sixth sense started, Spidey sense started going off, I would change. And I had a lot of close calls, so I thought I had like this sixth sense. But this one time, I was just, I don't know, a little too cocky, and she was studying, doing homework in the basement. So I went upstairs to her bedroom and tried on her mini skirt and high heels and top. And I heard her coming up the stairs, and oh
Oh
my gosh,
no.
my heart went into my stomach. And I hoped that she was just coming into the kitchen. Nope, she came up the next set of stairs.
Were you trying to rip
And
close things off
oh
really
my,
quick?
I I didn't have time. I just tried to hide, but there was nowhere to hide.
Oh
And so then she
goodness.
came into the room, and I was just so embarrassed. And
What did she say? Do you
she
remember?
was shocked, and I I don't know what she said because I was just kind of like ripping the clothes off as as fast as I could, and then later I like went down and started doing my homework, and she sat next to me and was like, "So, let's talk about that." And she wanted to know again. She's like, "So if it's okay if you're gay, it's okay." And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not gay. This
Yeah,
was
everybody
the
thinks there's an automatic connection. Yeah.
yeah."
Dressing
And
to,
I said,
yeah.
and of course I said, "This is the first time I ever tried it. I just wanted to see what it was like." And yeah, I promised her not to tell anyone. And she's never mentioned it since then, and no one's ever mentioned it. So
Interesting.
yeah, I've never brought it up. She's never brought it up too.
Sisters and mom's clothes? Did
Yeah,
anybody see you?
that was one time when I stayed home sick from school, like not actually sick, but I I pretended I was sick so that I could stay home and try on
Yep.
some of my this time it was my mom's stuff because she had some nice things too. But there was just this impulse to go outside, and so yeah, I decided to go out to the mailbox, and it was kind of a dare. I like to challenge myself, I
Was
guess.
your heart racing?
My heart was racing, but it felt so great having the wind
Right.
blow my skirt, and my hair wasn't really long, but it was long enough that I could feel the breeze on it. But no, I mean it was exciting, and as far as I know, no one saw me. I didn't see any neighbors or anything, but I loved hearing the heels clicking on the sidewalk and felt like I had accomplished something. It was fun and exciting.
Well, drive around in your car dressed?
Not too much. I did it maybe twice. And one time I actually went through the McDonald's drive-through. And it was obvious that they were on to me from the start, because when I got up to the part where you pay, there was a couple people pretending to sweep or whatever, just so they could get a glimpse of the crossdresser.
Oh, everybody, look, we've got one. We've
Yeah.
got one here in the
Yeah,
drive-thru.
exactly. So I probably wasn't the first one.
Because you purged, but so
Right.
those are the
Yeah.
gaps. Where were
I
those gaps?
I stopped when I was in college. There wasn't the opportunity, and also I would think I was just too busy.
Mm-hmm.
Too busy and too obsessed with girls. Convinced myself that that was something that I was moving on from.
Right.
And I think I may have even kind of surprised myself at how strongly it did eventually come back.
And that was when you got your own apartment, right? And you lived on your own?
Yeah, when I got my own apartment, the urge came back, and I ordered some stuff from like a Sears catalog or something. And so
Oh,
that
God.
was kind of the start of accumulating things. I never really accumulated a lot of stuff until well after I was married. But yeah, it's started kind of, once you have that freedom of living on your own, then yeah, that opens up some new
Mm-hmm.
opportunities.
Yep.
I'm trying to psychoanalyze it, and I think there is no one reason. I think it's a bunch of different reasons. And yeah, kind of at this point, I don't really care what that reason is. I know I enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's part of me. And I'm not out to everybody. I'm actually not out to most people because it's not really relevant in most cases. But I
Mm-hmm.
have gone to multiple not Christmas parties, Halloween parties as female costumes. So I think a lot of people can make that
And when you walked
connection.
really well in your heels and you looked better than most of the women there, they probably went, "That's not his first time."
Yeah, exactly.
To dress in the beginning.
Yeah, sort of. I think, like in the beginning, like I think I was too young to know what being
Yeah,
turned
that's a
on
good point.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think at points I would say probably yes, but not as a major motivator.
Mm-hmm. There was some element of it, but wasn't the core.
Yeah. So
Discovered, and I wrote a blog article about it, was gender envy. And I have to say that really opened my eyes. I'll just read the description. Have you ever heard of gender envy?
I've not, but I can already tell you that I will probably like this definition.
Well, and check out my blog article. I'd love to get your feedback. But the definition, at least this is one of them. For many men, gender envy manifests as an emotional and psychological attraction to the traits of traditionally associated with women, such as femininity, grace, beauty, or even the freedom of expression that women often have regarding their appearance. And the other thing I took it, even in this blog article, I took it a step further, is the power they have over just men and women, but just the public in general. When you appear as present as a pretty woman, the people treat you differently, and they gravitate towards you. And that's what I've experienced. Have you experienced that?
Well, I definitely believe that that's a thing, a gender envy, and everything you just said. I can definitely. I've said that before to my wife many times. We've had that discussion. I've never used that term, but yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
think that
I
that's
hadn't either, but I think I felt it, I knew it, but I didn't have a word a phrase for it. So
Right.
come
Kind of leave the neighborhood in a stealthy way, like I'll take my wig off and put a baseball cap on, and then put like a big
Yep.
baggy shirt over my outfit, and then sneak out of the neighborhood. But I've kind of gotten past that, where I'll just leave the neighborhood and get in my car and drive, without really caring anymore.
No.
Um, I've been misgendered many times. It's hard to tell because I think people frequently use the wrong term just accidentally. I
Yep.
mean, I this happens to me at work sometimes, and I'm in guy mode, and a customer will say, "Thank you, ma'am," and I know I don't look anything like a female when I'm at work. Um, so I think people just use the wrong word just accidentally all the time. So it's hard really to say. I'm
Threatened.
going to Vegas. I went to the Divas Las Vegas thing, and it was my first time really doing anything in public, other than like you.
Was that in 2011 that you mentioned on your?
Boy, that probably it seems about right. Um,
And then you said 2013 was so different than your
Right.
2011 experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So I went the first time and I was like so nervous and I was like determined I was going to do it. I'm going to go out. I'm going to be in public. I'm going to walk
Mm-hmm.
down the strip. I'm going to go to these casinos and stuff. But I was like really, really nervous the whole time and like trying to not walk like a guy. Like I wasn't doing the over exaggerated hip thing or whatever like that, but I was
Right.
just trying to not, look like a guy. Um, and I was so nervous. And I heard several comments, like, just snide comments from people behind me. And I had one guy like stand and salute. I guess I was being like really stiff as I was walking. And so there was a lot of that kind of mocking like stuff.
Okay.
But so that was kind of like a bad experience for me. But
Do you
then,
do you
like,
think in any way it was? Of course, it was not your fault in any way. But do you think the lack of confidence? This is a horrible analogy, but I do think it fits. You know, when a dog senses you're afraid of him,
oh,
they're
100%.
they're
That's
confident.
definitely
Yeah.
what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like you said, 2 years later, I went back and I was like, what, frick it. I'm not going to try and be nervous. I'm not going to care what people think. It was like, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I'm not going to look timid. I'm just going to have fun. And it was a completely different experience. Anyone that I met was just like, happy to see me and just rolled with it. Determined somewhere along the line, I just determined that I wasn't going to let other people decide whether I was having fun or not, and I wasn't going to care whether other people approved or didn't approve, and I was just going to enjoy it. And if that was a problem, then that was their problem. And
And I
I'm
think
sure
people
I'm
sense that, and that's why you get a different
yeah.
reaction.
Yeah, I believe so. And I'm sure that I had gotten advice from other people I had talked to that, said exactly what I told you, that if there's a problem, then it's their problem and not my problem.
And that was
You
the
know,
difference. And I think they sensed it. Like that's an important point for people to hear.
asked me like, what's the backstory? Does Heidi have a backstory? And I'm like, and I thought about that. I'm like, well, maybe she should. And then I'm like, no, she doesn't have a backstory because she's just all about the moment. And like you said, part of any hobby really is forgetting about your regular life and just concentrating on whatever hobby you're engaged in. And that's the fun of it, is that you don't have to think about those things.
And I
It's more truthful, more authentic being Heidi than my guy self, because I'm not hiding a part of me. Well, I guess, I
um,
mean, maybe I
can
am,
relate.
because I'm hiding
Oh my God, I can relate
my
to that
guy
statement.
side. Yeah.
I think that's the things that you were feeling when you were young that you found out weren't appropriate because you were a boy. Those things never went away, and your desire to have those conversations with women preference over maybe men, and so that you get to do that. You get to live that life for a few days or for a few hours.
Right.
It's very cathartic.
Well, in my guy self life, I'm very guarded and not like super social. And part of that reason for that is that I'm always trying to make sure I don't say the wrong thing or let on that I've got these feminine tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm Heidi, I don't have to worry about accidentally letting it slip that I bought a new pair of heels last week, or I love the color of that nail polish. Or
you say you're religious, but not super religious. So how do you square the dressing with your religious beliefs?
Well, let's see. I wouldn't say I'm really religious anymore. We don't really attend church or.
Were you Mormon?
Yeah, well, I grew up Catholic. When we moved to Utah, I did join the Mormon church. Everyone around here is Mormon, so the whole neighborhood is. So it seemed kind of natural, and there's a lot of good things about the Mormon church, but eventually we just decided that just didn't fit, and it wasn't really because of the cross-dressing. Although that's, if you've seen like their recent statements that they've made, we're kind of glad that we're not involved anymore. Right. So I don't think I'm really religious anymore. I would say more spiritual than religious, and I think God sees your soul and sees how you treat other people and whether you're a good person or not.
Club.
Well, let's see. A really nice group of ladies for the most part. I mean, any large group is going to have some drama, but yeah, I got invited several years ago, and they try to present a nice, classy image of something that a lot of people have a misunderstanding about. And again, that's as to your question before about going into mainstream or LGB places. That's one of the reasons I like going to mainstream places. I want to further the conversation that that cross-dressing is not necessarily just a sexual quirk that people have or whatever. That it can be done classy and.
Like for you and Heidi.
Well, I would say maybe it's so our youngest just graduated college. And we'll probably be moving out soon, so it'll be interesting to see how the dynamics change there. Will there be more Heidi days? Will there be more dressing and going out?
Do you want there to be more Heidi days?
I'm not sure. I would say probably yes. I at least probably want to try it and see how it goes.
Sure.
But that could be interesting. One of the things that I try not to make anybody uncomfortable, but especially my kids. I don't want to be prancing around in skirts and heels if it's making them uncomfortable. So I try to do my dressing when they're away. But if
but
they're
you'll
away
be
all
an empty
the time,
nester then once the last one.
Exactly. Pretty soon, yeah.
That's going to be an interesting time for you and your wife.
Right. And I like being her husband, and I like doing like the husband-wife stuff together.
That's great.
And honestly, being Heidi is a lot of work, so I certainly don't want to do it too much.
Tell me about it.